What's going on, everybody? The Realist. So, check this out. I am browsing the internet. Just like everybody else, I've been kind of involved in the whole Tiger King. Basically, I've tried to reach out to a lot of the people that were on the series or the documentary, trying to get an interview with them to really hear the other side of the story. Not so much of what the documentary didn't cover, but a lot of just more of behind the scenes, more about the individuals themselves. And of course, I come across a video today of a guy that's trying to refute everything that was said inside of the documentary, really focusing on Carole Baskin and being pro Carole Baskin, like she didn't commit any of the crimes that she was accused of. Well, the way that it is at this day and age, as much as we want to use the old verbiage that you're guilty until proven innocent, right? Like that is the general consensus is what it is. What it's supposed to be is innocent until proven guilty. Okay, so fine. Let's just rule that out for a second. Like, totally forget that saying like it never existed. So what Carole did, or the Big Cat Rescue, whatever, she made a blog post explaining her side of the story about what the documentary left out. Now, I will say this, I guess you could say in a line of defense for Carole, is that whenever you're making any type of video or a series or a documentary, you don't want to include a lot of the boring, non-logical, nobody gives a shit about. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. And obviously she's going to refute it. And I found this out because I saw the gentleman Howard Baskin, her husband, his response on their Facebook group. So I browse YouTube, and sure enough, one of the recommended videos is this video that I'm about ready to show you. But I'm not really going to dissect him because this is an individual with an opinion, just like everybody else, just like me. Now, I'm not going to say that I don't have any inclination to believe that Carole Baskin did not do it. Of course, it is my opinion, and I may not. Anybody else find that weird that it's always, in my opinion, on that show, like it's going to be held legally against them if they don't say that? Anything you say, regardless, is literally in your own opinion or your own truth, which is essentially the same thing. But what I find holes in I don't really want to ruin it, but I'm going to show you some of these clips. So we're going to go through it a little bit. I'm not really trying to attack this individual, but there are a lot of holes. And not only the video itself, but the title alone. The video I'm going to be going over is a video basically just saying why the Tiger King is BS. And the name of the channel is Generation Films. I will provide a link in the description down below, or maybe to the pinned comment so people could follow this and then they can give this individual's their opinion. I really feel it's super important for me to comment on a lot of what this person is saying and what the basis of it is.
Hello and welcome back to an episode of Generation Films. My name is American Ben. And two might have murdered her millionaire husband, Don Lewis, who disappeared in 1997. Many viewers of the documentary seem to despise Carole and her current husband, Howard, more than they do Joe.
Let me just stop it there for a second. Many of the viewers really focused on Joe's innocence, and I don't think anybody is going to refute, obviously, what the courts found guilty, but I think it's super important here because this individual, I don't really want to spoil it, but he really is going based off of Carole Baskin's response to the Netflix, obviously refuting every single thing that was essentially incriminating anything that she could have possibly or did do.
Now, in response to the documentary, Howard made a video and Carole wrote a blog post criticizing the filmmakers for their misrepresentations and lies.
And oddly enough, this is what he is going off of, posing the argument that Carole Baskin did not, in fact, kill her husband and some of the other things. He is refuting what the documentary had said, going a little bit extra, so to speak.
Let's start with her husband's death. The show spends part of episode 2 and the entirety of episode 3 making Carole out to seem like a psychotic killer who fed her husband to her cats.
They believe Carole fed him to a tiger.
Now, in Carole's response, she details how her husband was going nuts in the lead up to his disappearance. She claims he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was doing odd things like refusing to.
Everything you're seeing here that he's showing is actually from her blog. Nothing that is, there's no medical documents, but I will say this, reading the blog, that there are some legal documentation about the restraining order and other things that do I guess you could kind of say, back up some of what she says.
She goes into detail in her post about all of the weird things he did. But I don't care about any of this. The question is there any reason to believe that Carol killed Don? And who does the documentary rely on to tell us about what happened between Carol and Don? Well, big cat owners like Joe Exotic and Doc Antle, and Don's ex-wife, whom he left to marry Carol, Gladys Lewis Cross, and her daughters. In other words, people who have every reason to hate Carol.
All right, let me stop him right there. Listen to me. Every person that watches this, I guess, automatically hates Carol Baskin, but we're only put forth to see what is in front of us, and then we're going to judge based off of that. So using his argument that the people that believe that are just the people that were in the documentary that have reason to hate her, believe it. What about everybody else? What about you and me? What about you watching me right now? Now, unless you're Carol Baskin, I'm sure that you believe you didn't, and I'm not saying that you did, but here's the thing. If the argument is that it's underneath the septic tank or that you fed him to the tiger, why not provide that proof? Why not start ripping that out of the ground to show, hey, here's the septic tank. Obviously, it's not down here. And obviously, the cops didn't find anything. And they did bring up the argument. Listen, I've seen the whole documentary. I know that side of the story, and I know this side of Carol's story. But that doesn't mean that that's the true story. There's always three sides to a story. There's my side, there's your side, and there's really what's happening. Even if you're the most truthful person in the world, you're never going to tell the exact story for what it is. There's going to be something that you leave out. And I'm sure that there is something missing in this story so people can put it all together. There has to be a reason why a majority of the world that watches this believes that Carol did in fact do it. Even this individual's video that I'm showing you, he's using the argument of Carol's response that she didn't do it. He's going to argue that there's no evidence that shows otherwise. Well, there's no evidence to show that she didn't do it either. That's just my word against yours now, isn't it?
Seems, in my opinion, to have killed her own husband, potentially.
She's got a missing husband that's supposedly buried in her property. That's a real true story.
Yeah, let's rely on the guy who has 50 wives and the former drug kingpin to explain to us what Carol is doing wrong.
So, in your eyes, let's not rely on them because their words mean absolutely nothing. Is it maybe possibly because you're jealous of what or who Joe Exotic is and that's something that you strive to be? Or is it because you just don't like him because you want to go against the grain? I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, so we're just going to leave that window open. I like how automatically we're going to discredit them because of what their past is. Maybe you should look up the past of Carol Baskin before you go siding with that individual. Since, of course, we're judging based off of past.
And throughout all these interviews, I kept hearing things like this.
Well, there's no proof.
I don't know that.
Oh, really? Is there no proof for these very serious implications you're making? Well, then maybe you should think twice about making them. There is zero good evidence aside from some vague circumstantial stuff to even slightly hint that Carol might have done the deed.
There have been people convicted of murder with little to no evidence and even without a body. There's got to be something somewhere. Somebody has got to have more information than what we're being told. If we're just assuming that what Carol is saying is 100% true.
The documentary plays up this narrative about a meat grinder that Carol owned that she might have used to grind up Don's body. But you see this meat grinder that is shown in the show? Well, this apparently isn't Carol's meat grinder. According to Carol, her meat grinder looked like this.
And neither is that one. That isn't her meat grinder. She posted on a blog. Take a read at that. The meat grinder shown in the video was enormous. Our meat grinder was one of those little tabletop hand crank things like you have in your kitchen at home, like the one pictured below. Well, wouldn't you post a picture of yours? Why would you use a stock image of a meat grinder to show that yours is not the one in the video? I'm not saying that hers is that one, but if you're trying to defend it, put a little sticky note on one so people know it's yours, saying, hey, I did this, or do your little picture pose that you did with the lion in the beginning so people know that that's yours. Why not do that? Why use a stock image from Shutterstock to show this is not my meat grinder? That's not going to work. Not today, Charlie Brown.
Carol's sworn enemy make an unfounded claim that Don's body is buried under Carol's septic tank, despite having absolutely no evidence that that's true.
Or no evidence that it's not true. But it really boils down to whether or not Carol had or did or have any thing to do with the missing appearances of her ex-husband. I think the fact remains is that if enough of people believe it, and there's enough of, not so much evidence, right? We don't necessarily need evidence to figure out someone is guilty or not. We all have opinions, and we're entitled to that, just like you are of your opinion of Carol. And I'm going to be straight up honest with you. I am not one of those people that really go with the crowd here, but this is something that I kind of have to. Because when you look at all sides of it, okay, you look at the scenario that she's in, the missing appearances, every time she would talk about something, you would nervously laugh. How did nobody else pick up on that?
Some days, much less on his body on him, and put him in the septic tank. I didn't do it. Zoned? I don't know.
There is some serious irregularities there. I mean, like, who tells a joke about someone missing or possibly dead and then, I have nothing to do with that. Oh, I lopped off their penis. You can't just pretend like you didn't hear that question and then laugh about it. No, someone else out there had to pick up on that. I couldn't be the only individual doing so. Here's something that's worth mentioning. Okay, now me doing video edits, you probably just found me on this channel, but I do have another channel that is, you know, a different direction than what this channel is. But listening to this, clearly he didn't have all of his evidence or his proof available because he did a little voiceover like what you're about to hear right now.
But according to Carol and video evidence, their smallest enclosure is 1,200 square feet, and their largest is over 2 acres.
Did you hear how the volume changed? Let me do that one more time for you.
But according to Carol and video evidence, their smallest enclosure is 1,200 square feet, and their largest...
So one of Carol's arguments is that she didn't have time to refute any of that. The documentary isn't just about you, right? Like, obviously there are certain things that you can say and you can't say, and it'll just be cut out and then something overlaid over that, or it just never shows up because it's not important. It's not pertinent. No one's going to watch it. No one's going to care. You got to keep people on the edge of the seat. You got to do the drama. That's just what sells. That's just what works. She wants to refute it, make the video, make your little vlog post like you did. When I watched this Howard Baskin gentleman speak about how much he loved his wife and how the documentary portrayed them in a different image or a different light. If you've been through this before and you've been down this road already with Joe Exotic, he did some outlandish things. I'm not going to deny that. But again, that doesn't make him a criminal per se. It just makes him a little bit crazy. But he got to say his side because everything that came out of his mouth was pure gold. It just sold itself. You know, maybe if you didn't laugh at the end of a question, you would have been able to get more of your answers out. You run a Facebook, Carol Baskin, if you ever see this, I doubt you will, but you run a website. Put that out there. Make a video of a response. Don't put it all on your husband to make a video defending you. You know, be a big person and do something about it. Make a video. I wouldn't say sue people, even though you're sue happy. You know, just make a response. Make a video, upload it, call it a day. Now, you can use the argument and say that her pens or the little communities that the tigers were in were perfect. That's why they passed the USDA inspection. But when you look at the old videos, how they have to stick their head in to drink the water, which is real video, you can't use the argument that that is perfect.
The documentary does a very poor job of pointing out the differences between Carol's operation and Joe's. The event that the show keyed in on, in which hundreds of unpaid volunteers showed up at the sanctuary to help handle the hordes of people flocking in to see our animals, is a one-day event.
There he goes, quoting a vlog again.
The show also makes it seem like Carol and Howard went after Joe's old sickly parents.
See, again, he goes back talking about the vlog. Why not ask other people outside of just her responses? I mean, that's going to be hard for you to do because not a lot of people are on Carol's side here. And again, it's not that I'm attacking this individual at all. It's not that he's being vindictive. He is playing kind of both sides of the fence, but obviously favoring more towards Carol here using her argument. I'm sorry, I cannot agree with a lot of what Carol posted on her website in regards to the death of her husband and all these different business practices.
You might point out that at one point Carol and her husband Don sold exotic cats themselves and profited off of cubs. And though it does seem like Don was mostly the one behind that, this is true. But so what? She doesn't do it anymore. Should Carol not be allowed to say she learned that her behavior was immoral?
If we're not going to judge her based off of her past, the same guy that's making this video is the same guy that was judging that drug dealer by his past. You just contradicted yourself in your own video. You said,
So what? She doesn't do it anymore.
so what? He doesn't deal drugs anymore, using that same argument that you just used. So it's not about what you are, it's a matter about what you do. And if you're judging it by what you do, then is it fair to just dismiss what her past is? Yeah, we'll let the people judge on that one. That's not saying that she did do it, but if enough of people are believing, I definitely think that there needs to be another look at the whole case. And if that's what the documentary does, is bring more light on it, or more light on the whole scenario, I think that's a good thing. And once it's proved otherwise, that either, his body is found or he makes a video, which I doubt he would do because he'd be like 90, right? So, or whatever, he'd be old. So I doubt he's going to be making a YouTube video anytime shortly. But unless there's some kind of evidence that proves that she didn't do it, we could all leave it up to speculation. But I do think that a majority of people that watch that series or that documentary truly believes the same thing that I do, that there is some kind of connection of him being missing. And you leave it at that. The realist out.